Did you know Variety, the children's charity, is the entertainment charity started by a group of show business people who found an abandoned baby in a theatre way back in 1928. These kind-hearted performers raised so much money to help the lost child that they began helping other children, and Variety, the children's charity, was born. Read the full story and support the entertainers charity that supports kids in need today. Visit variety.org.au. You're listening to the School of Hard Knock Knocks podcast with me, Maury Morgan.
Ladies and gentlemen, your next comedian.
Shouldn't drink on an empty head, you know that, don't you?
That is the shittiest heckle I have ever heard in my life.
Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.
What's a bucket list?
You have dangerously underprepared yourself for the shit that is about to get real.
Ross Voss is an Adelaide-based comedian and room runner. With over 10 years in comedy and experience producing shows at the Adelaide Fringe Festival, as well as Cranker Comedy, Ross knows comedy and Adelaide. In this interview, Ross sheds light on the Adelaide comedy scene, provides advice for newbie comedians, and inspires a new School of Hard Knock Knocks podcast tradition, the Pay It Forward Joke Challenge. Each episode, our interviewee lays down a joke topic for the next episode, so listen to our next episode to hear an original joke on barbecues. Thanks, Ross Voss. And if you're based in Adelaide and would like to try your hand at stand-up comedy, we're running a full course from June 4 to 8 with resident comedy teacher Glenn Nicholas, Ross Voss himself as our guest comedian, and our very own alumna, Kim de Cruz. Early bird tickets are on sale already, so visit www.schoolofhardknockknocks.com to secure your spot. Now, here's my interview with Ross Voss. Good afternoon, Ross. How are you, mate?
Murray, hello.
Oh, good to hear your voice all the way in Adelaide.
Yep. We've got phones here in Adelaide, so it's happening.
Now, well, I actually said all these sentences 30 minutes ago, and you're just replying to them now.
Okay.
Oh, that's an Adelaide joke.
The time thing. I get it, yeah.
So for anyone who's not from Australia, listen to this podcast. Adelaide is an inconvenient 30 minutes behind the eastern seaboard of Australia, that being Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane and Canberra. And 30 minutes, not an hour, not 2 hours, 30 minutes.
Yeah, well, it takes us half an hour to get the jokes that you guys tell us, yeah.
It does. I might leave that pregnant pause in there just to emphasise that specifically. I think India also has a time zone that's 30 minutes, but aside from parts of India, I think, and Adelaide, there's not many countries in the world that can claim 30-minute differences.
Really, I've never thought about time differences and time dilation this much, but I'll just take your word for it, man.
No. Well, I read that on the Adelaide tourist brochure. Yeah.
Are we promoting this? I didn't know this is a good thing. Come to Adelaide, everything's half an hour behind.
Well, I wasn't sure. Look, I've just automatically gone into the slap Adelaide across the face, and we barely know each other, so I apologise.
Go for it.
I apologise to all people in Adelaide. Look, I'm having fun at your expense. Well, look, let's get stuck into it, because this is a comedy podcast, and the people that listen to this podcast are newcomers to comedy or up-and-comers. They might be about to embark in comedy, and they've seen the open mic scene from a distance and gone, oh, God, I can't do that. Or maybe they've done one of our courses, the School of Hard Knock Knocks stand-up comedy courses. And we are going to Adelaide. We've already done a free course, beginning of the year with Glenn Nicholas, and we're going back for good from June 4 to June 8. And Ross, you'll be joining us.
Yeah, I'm excited.
So I'm excited too, because I've only been to Adelaide 3 times in my life, and we're going back for June 4 to June 8 for the 4th time. And I want to know a little bit more about the Adelaide comedy scene and what there is. So hence why I asked to interview you for this podcast, learn a bit more, because we've had the Adelaide Fringe earlier in the year, which you were heavily involved with. So anyway, let me stop talking and let me get stuck into it. So Ross Voss, that's not your real name, is it?
No, well, it's my stage name because I'm a performer as well. My actual last name is Voss Vaticus.
It's a good Greek name.
Vaticus it's a Greek name. There's a Vaticus just slapped on the end there. Most people see my name written down and think that it's some kind of disease.
I got to the 6th syllable and gave up.
Yeah, it happens. I get lots of pronunciations for my name. Vosvodicus,
Yeah. Well, you almost became Roman then.
Vosovatakis, Vosva, and then just not even bothering to finish.
That's good.
During Fringe, I got Ross Voss
That's a good one. I like that.
which I actually quite like that one. That one's pretty good. So, yeah, that's why I just go with Ross Voss. It's a little bit easier. It kind of rhymes, it balances out. Yeah.
Oh, excellent! And you, so you run a room, Cranker Comedy, and that's an active room. Is it? I think it's twice a month.
Yeah. So Cranker Comedy, first and third Tuesday of the month. We specialise with Adelaide's emerging and established comedians, but we have international and interstate comedians do the room as well, mainly during Fringe. And yeah, the room's been running for about 8 years now. We started off just monthly. And now we're going twice a month, and maybe in the future we'll be going weekly.
Oh, that's great. Well, that's a good sign of Adelaide's comedy health because, we have a website, the School of Hard Knock Knocks, and one of the posts that we have on that, one's for Melbourne and one's for Adelaide at the moment. It is for the Melbourne one. It's the open mic nights list for Melbourne. If you're listening to this and you'd like to know what's happening in open mic nights in Melbourne, just go to our website and search for that. And there's, I think there's about 12 or so. Then when we replicated that page, but for Adelaide, I got 2. So I think Adelaide needs some support.
Yeah, well, we have a smaller scene here, but that doesn't mean that we're any less enthusiastic. There's lots of budding and emerging comedians coming through. So Cranker Comedy is one of those open mic nights that you refer to, but technically it's not really an open mic because I do book the gig ahead of time. A real open mic is sort of like you rock up on the night and get a spot.
On the night, yes.
Yeah,
right.
We also have one mic stand, which is on Monday nights at the Rhino Room, and that's, bring 3 people and get a spot, and sort of anyone can do that. And, that room's been running for... I'd say over 5 years now, maybe even about 7 years, run by a local promoter and comedian, Michael Bowley. So, yeah, there is stage time there for people who are looking for it, but you sort of have to know where to go.
Yeah, look, it's I was at Adelaide Fringe, and that was massive. But of course, that's not just comedy alone. That is the arts and performance and theatre and every aspect of art. So, and Adelaide Fringe, I believe, is the second largest fringe festival in the world, next to Edinburgh.
That is correct. We're the biggest in the Southern Hemisphere, and even though we do have the time dilation, we're still got it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. Well, and on that note, a good segue. Your background is in theatre as well, and you did a fair bit of work at the Adelaide Fringe. Tell us more about some of the theatre work you do and the curating.
No worries. Yeah, so I studied drama at university. I've just come off a theatre production called Marathon, which is more of a drama. It was funny as well, but basically this show in a nutshell was me and one other guy, and basically we're training for the New York Marathon, and what makes this show unique was that we were jogging on the spot for the whole show.
Oh, wow.
Basically. Yeah.
Do you have a Fitbit? Do you know how many steps you do in a show?
Well, no, I didn't calculate it, but we ran for about sort of 55 minutes. So, I mean, it's not that bad, but because it's on the spot, it sort of made it challenging for a few muscles in the old legs and feet.
Yeah, I could imagine you haven't left a divot in the stage there, have you?
Yeah, that's it. It's sort of creaky in a few spots now.
Oh, that's great. So, performer, you run shows, and you're also a comedian. I believe roughly 10 years, is that right?
Yep. Started in about 2007. And they actually say that to be good at comedy, you have to have been doing it about 10 years. So I'm just getting to the level where I can say that I'm good.
So you got to 10 years and you're like, I must be good now, even if you were good before, but now it's official.
Well, no, I think what I've just proved is that statement isn't true, that adage of doing it 10 years. I think you might have to be doing it longer. But I think Steve Martin says something interesting in his book, Born Standing Up. I think he did comedy for 16 or so years, and he said he spent the first 8 years learning, the next 4 years refining, and the last 4 years killing. So that's just puts it into perspective how much, work you actually have to do if you want to be successful at it.
There's a real psychology in stand-up comedy, that is for sure. So I can understand being able to read a room, read energy levels, being able to adapt quickly, and of course, writing funny jokes. That's also happens to be a very important feature.
If you've got a funny joke or several, that definitely helps. Yeah.
Yeah, that is correct. Now, let's go back and talk a little bit about Adelaide because, as we just said, Adelaide Fringe is huge and there is a large component of comedy as part of Adelaide Fringe. We've got 2 rooms at the moment that are helping develop comedians. But what else can Adelaide do to develop the stand-up comedy scene?
It's a good question and kind of a complicated question. What it starts off with performers wanting to perform, then it goes into having those opportunities to perform, so the performance spaces and rooms to regularly perform and develop material, and then hopefully develop shows that they might want to stage at the Adelaide Fringe and other festivals, and then big picture thinking is touring those shows.
Yeah, right. And I know that you actually assist young stand-up comedians, people who are just starting out, and you give them feedback in order to help them keep that momentum. What kind of advice would you give to an up-and-coming comedian? 10 years, you've got 10 years of experience as a stand-up comedian, but I think just as importantly, you've got all those years watching comedians, have those people come into your world asking for opportunities. If I was a stand-up comedian or wannabe stand-up comedian in Adelaide today, what advice would you give to me? Perform
as much as you can. Work hard. That's basically, in a nutshell, what I'd say. But then linked to that, watch as much comedy as you can. Get inspired, get the comedy juices flowing. Write down your ideas. That's a big one because sometimes you might have an idea and then be like, oh, that's so hilarious, I'll never forget it. And then in 40 minutes' time, you're like, what was that really good idea again?
Exactly.
So have a system in place that works for you because we're all different. We're all different types of learners and different types of performers. So just find your little method and then hone that method as you start performing and as you continue more. And then... onwards and upwards.
So people come into Cranker Comedy and they introduce themselves to you. Maybe they go to a show and then find you and introduce themselves to you, and you put them on the ticket for the next week. Is there a waiting list, or what's the best way for an Adelaide comedian to get on your list?
Yeah, so basically what you're saying, so either come to a show and introduce yourself in person. You can also like the Cranker Comedy page on Facebook and send me a message or a friend request. And, we just take it from there. Normally, it's not the next week that you get on because I booked the show in advance. But, I generally try and help everyone out if I can, especially emerging performers, because I remember what it was like to be a performer wanting stage time.
Yep.
So, it's just, you're just kind of hungry for it and you just want to get out there and actually do it.
Yeah, right. We, during our stand-up comedy course, the School of Hard Knocks course in Melbourne, we invite some of the we call them room runners in Melbourne. Is that the same language that you use in Adelaide for someone who runs a room?
Runs a room or a promoter. Okay,
so room runner seems to be the Melbourne thing, but, it's like Rockmelon and Cantaloupe, I guess, for the different cities and states. So we've had a couple of room runners come in, namely Glenn Zen is one, Paul Sharplin and David McDonald. They each run, in that order would have been, anyway, in that room was Funny at the Brunny, Gorilla and also The Attic. Those were rooms. Some of them are open mic, some of them are curated rooms, like David McDonald's Attic is curated, like yours in many ways. He does prepare a week in advance and does bring in some headliners as well. We bring them in so that they can share kind of the etiquette of being an open micer or a new comedian to room runners and what it is. Have you had any bad experiences? They share those bad experiences with our class, but to our audience listening, have you had any bad experiences where people have come in and either demanded that they get on the ticket or just do things the wrong way?
You mean like a performer?
Yeah, like an open micer, obviously someone new, because they would quickly get slapped in the face, metaphorically, on how to approach a room runner in the future.
I can honestly say no, and not really. People are generally pretty well behaved and pretty polite. I mean, occasionally you have a very beginner go over time.
Okay.
That's probably the main one is when you get booked for a room, do your time if you want to sort of perform there again and build a good rapport with the promoter or the room runner. Don't go wildly over time. That's just going to annoy them. Don't insult the room or insult the other performers on the night.
Yep.
That's a pretty obvious one. So it's just, common human decency, really. Sometimes people get a little bit too drunk and might, not know or get flustered and lose themselves. But, generally I found people are pretty good.
Yeah, that's good. Well, there you go. Melbourne, listen to Adelaide. That's the way you behave, all right? No, unfortunately, I've heard a few stories of just inappropriate behaviour, just maybe a little bit of ego, but obviously that's not an issue yet. Something to look forward to as Adelaide's comedy scene grows, perhaps.
Maybe, but I think it just more depends on the room and the individuals in question. You can always, there might just be a few bad eggs or whatever. But I think, if you're prepared, and that's the other thing, prepare your spot, prepare your material. Don't just think, I'm funny naturally in real life at parties or social situations.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna wing it on the night. You might be able to do it, but there's nothing like being prepared. So practice, and if you are, that will reflect in your performance, and then you'll probably get more stage time.
Yeah, that's right. There are, and I have been to a couple of open mic nights where you can clearly see the barbecue jokes up on stage, and they're not the same structure. You can't finish a sentence by saying, well, I guess you had to be there, which is a very common sort of barbecue joke ending, unfortunately.
Now I'm just thinking of barbecue jokes. There must be some legitimate barbecue jokes now.
Not specifically about the barbecue, but barbecue jokes around the barbecue. Maybe I should be...
Yeah, I know. I get what you're saying, but now I'm just thinking of actual barbecue jokes. There must be jokes
specifically about barbecues. Weber's and... gas snags. Look,
throwing shrimps on Barbies. There must be something there.
Oh, you know what? What if we had a challenge? The interview that we do. So this interview, for example, throws down the challenge, kind of like the ice bucket challenge, but for writing a joke. That you have to write a joke about a topic. So let's do that. All right. So Ross, you have inspired me. Whoever is our interviewee for the next show of the School of Hard Knocks podcast has to write a joke on barbecues, related to barbecues. Now I will give them time.
They're going to love that. They're going to absolutely love me for that,
Well, they get to pass it on, right? So obviously not on barbecues for the next person, but they have to choose a random topic as well, something as obscure as barbecues. So there we go. So if you listen to the next podcast, whoever we interview will have to have a joke, a perler, a core joke about barbecues. Now, we will give them some time, not a lot of time, perhaps only a couple of days, but it has to be their own original joke about barbecues. Thanks, Ross. Excellent. There we go. Well, I hope that doesn't put anyone off, but Ross Voss is actually going to be one of our guest comedians during the June 4 to June 8 stand-up comedy course that we're running in Adelaide at the Archer, which is in North Adelaide. And we've got Glenn Nicholas, and he is actually our resident comedian, and he's going to be teaching the 5-day course from Monday through to Friday. Friday being the graduation ceremony. So the graduation is actually a performance. So I hope that joke doesn't appear at your performance, but Ross, you'll be performing on June the 8th alongside Glenn.
Yeah.
Also Kim De Cruz, one of our alumni, and then of course the graduates of the School of Hard Knocks in Adelaide. But look, I'll give you bonus points if you can really make a good barbecue joke.
What now,
for Adelaide.
or at the in the thing. Yeah, I'll try.
I'll give you time. You got a month. You got a month. So it's you've got more than a month. So it is June the 8th is the graduation. It's from 7:30 p.m. until 10 p.m. on Friday, the June 8th. If I don't hear a rip-roarer barbecue joke, well, I'll be very, very disappointed.
All right, I'll devote some thought to it.
A challenge out there, but we will put it out there. And I really like your idea that I came up with about giving the topic to the next person, because I look at it, it just makes people want to listen to the next episode, doesn't it?
It might, yeah.
Or maybe not. All right. Well, Ross, coming back a little bit on advice. So, as just mentioned, you will be performing, and we'll also get you in to talk to the comedians, the up and coming comedians, the wannabe comedians, midweek.
Yeah.
Any sort of other advice that you would give to these newcomers on comedy, aside from what you described? Write, don't wait, write it down. You'll forget it in 40 minutes. Get stage time. Be polite, but that doesn't seem to be a problem in Adelaide. Anything else?
I guess just know that you're on your own journey as an artist. So in the stand-up comedy scene and a lot of other art scene, there's this kind of environment that thinks if someone else is getting an opportunity, then that opportunity isn't going to me, and that we're all somehow in competition with each other. And also because it's a
zero-sum game.
And also because it's a very solitary art form, that, it's sort of us against the world. But I find that if you actually work with people and, notice that you're not really in any direct competition with anyone else, you're more just in competition with yourself. Mm-hmm. So it is all about trying to find your voice, trying to find your comic voice, and then trying to just be the best comedian that you can be. Yep. And I think if you embrace that thought, then you actually want to do comedy for the sake of itself, not for any other reason, like you might want to get rich, or you might just you do it for your ego or whatever. Then that's probably the right place to be coming from, and it might take a few years to actually get there. But and listen to when people give you advice. You don't have to listen to their advice, but you can at least be open to it. And that's it's really just as simple as that.
Oh, fantastic.
I think.
Well, Ross Voss, thanks very much for your time. That is very, very useful information. And if you want to actually meet Ross Voss in person, if you haven't done so already, and you live in Adelaide, or you don't mind the drive, then Ross will be helping with the June 4 to June 8 course. We'll have you come in midweek to talk about your experience in the comedy scene in Adelaide, and then we'll have you perform with the graduates on June 8th.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Looking forward to that barbecue joke.
Me too.
Thanks, mate. Bye.